welcome to An Artist's Dream, the podcast where artists share their journeys and points of view to help you find your own path. My name is Alex, and welcome to the show. How's everybody doing this week? I'm currently embarking on a very exciting but stressful journey. I'm actually in the process of doing let's call it a half cross country move. I currently live in Louisiana and I'm planning a move over to California really soon. So we just started doing all that planning. This isn't my first time doing a big move like this. I have actually moved a lot in the past 10 years of my life. But this one's really exciting. California is a place that I love, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for my fiance and I over there. But enough about me. Today's guest is a person who runs an Etsy shop that specializes in very cute stickers, but they also work in the gaming industry as their day job. And so cool. I haven't talked to anybody who works in the gaming industry. And the fact that they also run such an insanely cute Etsy shop on the side is mind blowing. I actually found them on TikTok. They were one of the first shops accounts that was recommended to me while I was first getting into the app. I am talking about Ivy from Ivytart. Ivy was such a delight to talk to. She's such a sweet person. We actually ended up talking for about an hour after the show wrapped up recording. So I think you guys are going to love hearing her story and really get a lot out of it because she's someone who is very early in her career and has a lot of lessons to share with you. So without further ado, let's talk to Ivy and hear more about her. Let's give a big warm welcome to Ivy. Hi, Ivy. How are you doing today?
Hi, Alex. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I actually found you through TikTok last year. It was my like everybody else, I had a lot of extra time on me and I
Mm-hmm.
finally joined TikTok, and
Mm-hmm.
you were one of the first artists to land on my For You page once TikTok figured out what I liked.
Oh my gosh. When you initially sent me the email and you said that you've been following me since last year, I was like, I felt so like, I don't know, I just felt so happy and nostalgic because like I feel like my TikTok page really like grew a lot last year. And when you told me that you were like following me since the beginning, it just made me feel so happy and yeah, that you got to like watch my growth and everything. So I really appreciated your support.
Yeah, and your growth has been kind of explosive for such a short period of time. So we're definitely going to be talking about that later.
Okay.
So let's start though from the beginning. When it comes to art, has it been something that you've liked ever since you were little?
Yeah, so I think a lot of artists kind of have this similar story, but I did like art since I was a kid. Obviously, in the beginning, when I was like 7, 8, I didn't really think I could make a career out of it. I mean, I don't really think I knew what a career was back then either. But as a kid, I used to like a lot of kids, I loved anime. So I used to draw like fan art of Inuyasha and like Naruto. So that was what I did in my spare time, and I really liked it. And yeah, and then when I was about 13 or 12 or 13, I can't remember, but I used my birthday money to buy my first like super crappy Wacom bamboo tablet that was like $40.
Wow.
So then I just started doing digital art since then. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started for me.
Oh, that's so cool. I love how like a lot of kawaii artists gets their start drawing anime.
Yeah. Honestly,
Same
I had the
here.
biggest crush on Inuyasha as a kid. So, I had to draw him because in my mind he was my boyfriend. So I had to show him some respect there with my art.
You've got it. You got to start your fandoms young.
Hmm.
And so, when would you say you started taking art seriously?
So I was really conflicted about my career path for like honestly up until was forced to choose a career path in high school.
Wow, really?
And it was because like growing up, I always got really good grades in school. So my parents are pretty strict, and they, like feel like a lot of like immigrant parents have this same dilemma, but they're always like, Ivy, you got good grades, you gotta like go into like engineering, you gotta like, I don't know, like be a doctor, do something with your grades. And I was like, I
Mhm.
I could, but like it just never clicked for me. And all throughout high school, I was trying to figure out what career path I wanted because I knew that I wanted to do something that was creative or something that involved like art in some way. And for a while, I was like, okay, I'll be like an architect because that's like engineering kind of mixed with art, or that's what I thought at the time. And then I was like doing my research and I was like, whoa, this is way too much math, way too much physics. I don't want to be responsible if a building collapsed. So, like, I was like, I'm not going to be an architect. So then I started going into graphic design and I thought I was going to go into graphic designing in high school. And
Oh.
I actually, I did apply to a few universities and colleges for graphic design actually.
Mhm.
And uh I wasn't like honestly I remember going to in Toronto here they have like a university convention every year, and like all different schools in Ontario and in Canada will have their booth set up or whatever, so you can walk around and chat with the recruiters and everything. And even while I was there, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And this was like the year that I had to apply to all my schools and everything. So yeah, I was honestly conflicted up until I had to choose, and they're like, you have to choose now." So I applied
Wow.
for a lot of different things, but I knew that I wanted to go to some creative path. So I applied for like animation, I applied for graphic design, I applied for game design, which is like what I ultimately studied in university. So it was yeah, it was really conflicting for me when I had to choose what I wanted to do with my life.
I bet. I think a lot of people can definitely relate to that story about having or feeling the need to fulfill parents' expectations because
Yeah.
I also had very strict parents. They were very supportive. I think they ultimately knew I was going to pursue art along, but I do still think that they were holding out hope that I would pick something quote unquote practical.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. Well, it kind of did, like through weird circumstances, because I did end up getting a bachelor's in business, but that's not what I went to school for. But
Oh, I see.
I totally get like the whole idea of like trying to like balance what you want to do and then what your parents want you to do.
Yeah, it was really tough for me because I don't think any kid wants to disappoint their parents.
Mhm.
But I do remember like when I was applying to schools, my mom was very insistent, like, Ivy, you need to apply for engineering. Cause like one of my older cousins, she like went to school for civil engineering. And so she was kind of like the blueprint for my parents. Cause like
Mm.
she was like one of the like in terms of my cousin, she was like my only older cousin who was also a girl. So they're
Yeah.
like, well, Ivy's smart and she has good grades, so why don't you do engineering too? And I'm like, I like fought with my parents so much about it until one day I usually don't talk back to my parents, but I was like reaching the end of my limits and I was like, listen, mom, I'm not applying to engineering. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just gonna do what I feel like I could succeed at and we're just gonna go from there. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how it panned out for me.
Wow, but it's still cool because you ended up doing a very interesting major. So you went to school for game development, right? Game design?
Yes. Yes. So I actually I went to university. Our program is actually interesting because it's like a joint program between a university and a college. So like in 4 years I got a degree and a diploma. So that was pretty cool.
Oh
And I actually got
wow.
to experience like university and also college at the same time, and there are like huge differences. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that I got to experience both, because I feel like it really like opened my eyes to what I guess what different types of education there are out
Yeah.
there. But yeah, the program I went into, we studied game design, so I have a bachelor of arts in game design, and then a advanced diploma in game development. So and I just graduated like last about a year ago ish. I think so, a
Oh
year
wow,
and a
so
half ago.
recent.
Yeah, so it was. I actually graduated during like literally when pandemic started. So yeah,
Oh, the timing.
I know, right?
Oh man, that's kind of good timing though because you finished right as a lot of I feel bad for
Oh
people
my
who were
god,
college students in 2020 and
same.
still because like they're not really getting an authentic experience.
No, like honestly, at first I did have a little pity party for myself because we never got like a proper like graduation or anything. Like
Yeah.
obviously because we can't have crowds of people. But yeah, I did have a little, pity party for myself back then. I feel like a lot of people did because they're just like mourning the death of their normal life.
Yeah, for real.
So I was just like, oh, I don't get a convocation, I don't get a grad, and even my parents were like, so like we don't like have anything, like you don't get to take pictures. Like I'm like, no,
Mhm.
we're just done. I get my paper in the mail, and then we're all good. So yeah, and that's exactly what happened. They just mailed me my degree, and then I was like, cool, I have a degree now, I guess.
Wow. Oh man,
So
I
yeah, and
cannot
then we
imagine.
yeah, and they were supposed to catch up on the graduations or whatever, but at this point they have like 50 of them to catch up on, so it's just not happening anymore.
Oh man, I know.
Yeah,
So,
so
and how was your experience in game design? Like, what was that major like?
okay, so actually going into it, I had no idea what to expect, honestly, because as I was saying, I was super confused and I was just like, okay, just gonna go to a random thing that I chose and hope that it works out for me. So I did like playing video games growing up, like most people do, but I wasn't like I'm still not. I wouldn't consider myself like a huge gamer where like I know everything about like the retro games from like the 90s and like blah blah blah. Like I didn't even have a console growing up. We had a Wii and that was it. So
Wow.
like I didn't really have that knowledge or anything of a lot of people where they go into games because of their nostalgia and everything connected with games. Um so when I went into it, I didn't know what to expect. And honestly, I it was a very small program. I think there was only like so in our program it's divided into two streams. So there's game design and then game development, and we kind of
Mm.
moved together through our years as a cohort. So um, as a cohort of between the two programs, there's only about like 60 of us or something. Like it was really small, which was cool because
Mhm.
it kind of I like the tight knit kind of group energy that we had because it felt more like it reminded me a lot of like elementary school because you know how elementary school, middle school, you have like a homeroom or whatever, so you
Yeah.
guys kind of go to classes together. So it kind of reminded me of that, and I like that a lot. Um, and in terms of the experience overall, it was honestly really cool. I mean, obviously, this is me thinking back at it now, but I'm sure like at the time I was like, oh, I hate school. Because there were times that I just wanted to like pull my hair out. But me
I
thinking back, I'm
bet.
like, yeah. So me thinking back, I was like, you know what? Like it was a really good experience. We got to learn a lot of cool things, and like I was saying before, our joint program with a mix of university and college was really cool. I liked it a lot, and I met a lot of professors and made a lot of connections because we had two different streams where we could make connections and network and stuff. So
Oh,
that
that's
was really cool
true.
for us. Um, and it was really really fun because our group was so small. I made a lot of good friends and just like connections in general that I think it's really hard to make if you're in like a larger program
Mhm.
where you're just like in lecture halls with like 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So it was really cool in that way because I feel like it was very tight knit, and I learned a lot about how to work with people.
I bet.
Yeah, so that was really cool about it. But of course, there were some bad things to it too. But
I bet it's a I mean, I obviously did not major in game design, but it sounds like a work intensive major to me.
it is, like, I think the hardest thing is that I feel like a lot of people feel this where, like, group projects are, like, everyone's nemesis because, like, you have to, like, coordinate with all these people and make sure everyone is on task, and literally all of all of my entire program and university career was group projects. We
Oh
just had group
man.
projects and group projects because you can't make a game by yourself.
I know it's true.
So, like, you kind of have to be in a group, and there's like definitely pros and cons to it because you learn very quickly who you do work well with and who you don't work well with.
Yeah, I know, right? And especially like you said you were in such a small class
Hmm.
that I bet you had to work often with the people that you didn't like.
Yeah, I think, and that's what I was saying about you learn a lot how to work with people,
Oh
because
man.
sometimes you're kind of in a situation where you're like, this person has kind of a record of not doing their work and kind of, slacking off. How can I
Mhm.
work around this? Because I'm forced in this position again. But honestly, on the other hand, I did meet a ton of people that I worked really well with, and we made some really cool stuff while we were at school, and just stuff that I'll never forget. So yeah, it was very memorable, to be honest. And I feel like I do have some negative feelings about like game design and game development and the program too. But I think overall, I am lucky to say that my program and my university career was really memorable. Because I know that a lot of people, like even people that I'm like people in my family, like they say that their university career just kind of like they just kind of flew by, didn't really like remember much about it. It was just
Mhm.
kind of there. They got their degree and then they were done. But for me, it was like genuinely, I remember so many parts of my entire 4 years there, and it was yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience to be honest.
Yeah, that's so good though that like you felt like you really did get to savor your time there cuz it's
Yeah,
true. I think especially I think it's particularly with people who have very intense majors, so things like, engineering and medicine and stuff. I don't think they really get to enjoy those years that much because those years are full of extremes.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I couldn't even imagine being
Me
in any
neither.
major like that.
Me neither. And so after school, I know that you graduated fairly recently, but out of school, what did you do?
So, right after school, like I said, I literally graduated during pandemic, so
Mhm.
it was kind of a weird time for me. But I'd actually, and I still do, but I was actually working at an indie game studio in the city that I used to live in right before I moved, which was like two
Ooh,
months ago.
yeah.
But I had already been working there for like 2 to 3 years, like 2 years, I guess, back
Wow,
then.
really?
Yeah, so I actually got like hired when I was like entering my I think the second year of my of university. I think it was the summer after second year of university, I think.
Mhm.
And I was hired that summer to work there, and then throughout their school year, obviously I couldn't work full time because I was a full-time student. So I would kind of work there part-time and then do like contract work and stuff for them. And then I just honestly continued doing that after I graduated. Um, so yeah.
Wow, so like you you got to work in game design like I am I doing the timeline correctly like during like before you graduated?
Yeah, yeah. I had gotten hired at my first like game job when I was just still in university, like my second
Yeah.
year of university. So yeah, that was really cool.
That must have been so interesting to be in a major studying, the topics while actually working in the
Yeah,
industry already.
it was actually it was crazy because it just worked out because the the company that I worked for, the owner of the company was also a professor at the college that I went to.
Oh.
So I don't know how much I want to get into this because it is such a long story. But basically, in our second year of university, we got our chance to make our first game, like from start to finish, like conception to like being done,
Mhm.
and as a group. So we had one semester, I think, to make a game, and it was actually an idea that we all like everyone pitched their ideas or whatever in the semester previously because he was also teaching the class that went right before the class that we had to make the game in. I hope that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So during the first class, first semester, we all wrote down game ideas and had like we pitched our own ideas as an assignment. And then in the second semester, when he grouped us up, he brought back those game pitches, and then as a group, we chose an idea to work off of and make. So the game that we ended up making was actually my idea, which is really cool. And yeah, we had so much fun making the game. It was called Pinhead, and it was about this little tomato character, like this little tiny cute tomato character, like the tomato pin cushions.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was basically he was like the main character, and it was a side scrolling game where you kind of just like move from side to side and try to exit the level. And it was just about this cute little tomato pincushion guy trying to navigate his way through a craft store. So that was like the premise of the game. So that
Oh,
was
that
really
sounds
fun.
so cute.
Yeah, and he could yeah, like basically the abilities are really cool because he could change different suits and stuff so he could have different abilities. So anyways, I don't want to get too much into it because I could literally talk about it for like 2 hours. But anyways, that project was like super successful, and then I don't know for sure, but I think because of that he saw some potential in me and was like, "Hey, do you want to work at our studio over the summer?" And then it just kind of continued from there.
That's amazing. I feel like we've mentioned this on the podcast a couple of times, but I'd say that that's like one of the big advantages of going to school for art is
Mhm.
that you make a lot of networking connections that
Oh
are
yeah.
hard to make otherwise, and they provide opportunities like that.
Oh yeah, I would 100% agree with that because I would say that like majority, if not like like I would say like 95% of all the contract jobs I've gotten and also just like regular jobs I've gotten in game development and illustration have been solely from networking and like people recommending my work to other people. So that's literally how I get most of my work.
Yeah, same here. Man, and not to mention also like social media presence, which in and out of itself is kind of a different kind of networking tool.
Mhm.
I've found a lot of work also through people who find me on social media and then recommend me to other
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I
That's awesome.
totally think that like networking is super important, but I feel like particularly there is something about networking in art school where you have such a close relationship with professors for four
Mhm.
years. Like, if you use that to your advantage, like, I feel like it really does make up for a lot of the cost. Here in the US, going to
Y
school is so
Oh,
expensive.
yeah. I mean, you guys have it way worse than us over here. I mean, it still costed me thousands of dollars, but, like, you know, not
Yeah.
nearly as much as it costs over there, I can
Oh,
tell you
yeah.
that much.
My schooling was, six figures, so
Good lord. Okay,
yeah,
well,
I'm
I almost
still
I
paying
almost
that.
passed out from hearing that. Good
Oh, I
oh
know. I
god.
feel like when you're here, though, like, it's like, everybody's gonna die owing money, so
Yeah. Everyone dies with debt, that's just how it is.
Yep, that's just we're all poor over here.
Oh, no.
And so, seeing that you've been working in game design and stuff, when did you start Ivytart? Because that's how I found you. I didn't find you through your game design. I found you through
Mhm.
like your personal illustration. When did that start?
So that's also pretty intertwined with my game dev stuff actually. Because basically to make a sad story not so sad, the company that I was working at and still working at, basically we got sorry, let me try to set up this a little bit better because I feel
Yeah.
like I'm all frazzled. So entering my last year of university, so the summer going into my final year of university, um, I was kind of under the impression that I would just continue working, like I would resume my full-time hours or whatever,
Yeah.
back at the company that I was and am working for. But at the end of the summer, so like July, late July-ish, going into early August, we like randomly lost our jobs. So
Oh.
yeah, so it was by we I mean like most people
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So
Like
like
there was a big
besides
layoff.
yeah, so honestly the studio wasn't too big to begin with, but there was like maybe 3 other students that were also working there at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all just got like laid off essentially. And it was literally like Saturday morning, like a random weekend. Saturday morning, we just all got a message and we're like, oh, that's cool. I guess we
Oh
don't
my
have jobs
god.
anymore. So yeah, it was, I mean, I'm saying this now, I'm laughing, but like at the time I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing with
Oh,
my
of
life?
course.
So, and honestly, it wasn't, I think it was almost like now looking back, it was definitely like a blessing in disguise because it did happen at a time where I didn't need to immediately like panic and be like, oh my god, how am I gonna like pay my bills and blah blah blah. Because I was still a student, like I was going into my last year, so I still had a year to kind of like figure everything out, you know. So it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like I had to go into full panic mode and be like, oh my gosh, like how do I provide for like everything I need to do. So it did happen. If it were to happen, it happened at a good time. um but yeah, we basically lost our job randomly, and after that I like totally shut down for like 3 weeks, and I was like, oh my gosh, like if I don't have this job, then like what am I going to do after I graduate? Like obviously I could try to look for another job, but like there's no guarantee. And like at
Mm-hmm.
the time I was kind of set on this idea that I was going to have this job after graduating. So I was like, crap, like what am I going to tell my parents, cuz they are all worried about me, of course, cuz they're just like, how are you going to like make a living and stuff?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my god, like I can't even like tell my parents about any of this. So I was like, okay, well, full panic mode. And then after full panic mode, I we actually this I guess I should say that honestly a lot of what inspired me to start my business was going to Comic-Con, because um later on in that summer, um for our college, they had a booth there at the Comic-Con
Oh,
at
wow.
Niagara Falls. And we went there to show off a game that we made that year. Um, was it that year or was it the year after? I can't even remember anymore. Honestly, I feel like the past year has been like 10 years in my mind. So I don't even know what
I
time is
think a
anymore.
lot of people will listening will agree.
Yeah. So essentially, at one point during my existential crisis, I went to Comic Con with my school to show off a game. And then while we were there, me and my classmate, she's also my best friend. So we both worked at the job that when we got let go at the same time. So we had a lot in common going there.
Yeah.
Um, so while we were there, of course, we had some free time, and we are like, let's just go like peruse the artist alley and like see what's up, because who doesn't like looking at art and cute things. So we walked around, and then we saw a booth that was split between two artists, two like small business owners that sold really really cute pins and stickers. And we're like, what, people like, you can do this, and like you could just make cute stickers and sell them and go to Comic-Con and have a booth? That's amazing. So we were like, we totally saw ourselves in that situation, and we're like, oh my gosh, like let's do this. Like at that moment, we were like, something like ignited in our minds. We were like, holy crap, like we could be small business owners too. That's cool. So then that's kind of what started it all, honestly.
Right.
And then around that time too, I didn't even start my Instagram art page until like 2018 or something, or 2019, I don't know. So I only started it like literally around the time that I lost my job, because before that I only had a personal account for like family members and friends and stuff, and I didn't really post my art anywhere. So then after I lost my job, I was like, okay, I don't want to be in a position again where I don't really have anything to call mine, because I kind of had this during my existential crisis. I had a little bit of an epiphany, and I was like, if I lose my job again in the future, what do I have to show for myself and my work? Because at the time, all my work that I ever made for art was all done for school or for work. And I was like, I don't have anything that's my own art that I can just claim that this is just solely my work for myself and everything like that. And of course, like me doing stuff for work in school, like it's not 100% in my personal style, like I
Yeah.
obviously have to make things that fit the project. So I didn't really have anything that was like just 100% me. And that's why I started my art page, because I was like, okay, well, I want to start making art for myself and posting it. And then, yeah, then after a year of having that art page for a while, and it took me literally like, I think over a year to even from deciding that I wanted to start an Etsy shop or be a small business owner to actually like making my brand and starting the shop. It took me like over a year, I think like a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I just kind of like kept building where I could. And that's kind of how I ended up here today.
Wow, that's like I feel like that is definitely I think a story people can relate to, right? Cuz it especially now with the pandemic, I'm sure a lot of people are kind of going through a similar situation as you, right? Cuz
Mhm.
You lost your job unexpectedly, and then you kind of had to like have a reckoning with yourself about, okay, like I thought I had these plans, and like, nothing is set in
Mhm.
stone, which is such a harsh lesson to learn, right? Because like I feel like
Definitely.
we all rely so much on things how they are that we
Mhm.
don't think about the fact that like nothing we do is permanent, and especially when you're employed by someone else, like you're at their mercy. And especially like I'm currently living in Louisiana, and Louisiana is what's called an at will state, which means legally your employer can fire you with no reason. Like they
Really?
don't
I
have
had
to
no
justify.
idea.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
rooted in a lot of social issues.
Oh,
But
I see.
yeah, so I think, and especially now with the pandemic, right? So many people lost their jobs, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people did like those kinds of life experiences, I think form like a catalyst for change. Like
Definitely.
it's such a sad thing to go through. I know that I also went through a layoff very early in my career. Like my first job out of college, I got laid off, and I remember also being like, "Oh my god, what am I going to do now?"
Yeah.
And it
That's
hurts
tough.
so much, but I feel like you also learn so much.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely learned a ton. And of course, like at the time it was horrible and I hated it. And I was like, why isn't my solid 5 year plan working exactly how I wanted it
I
to? This is
know.
stupid. I hate this. But and also too, like I think like a lot of people, I am like a chronic planner. Like I need to know what I'm doing and I
Yes.
like I start freaking out if things don't go according to plan. And obviously when I lost my job everything kind of blew to smitheroonies. So I kind of had to pivot there, which was honestly a good life lesson for me. And honestly, at the end of the day, I think a lot of good came out of it. In terms of like weighing the negatives and positives, sorry. I think the positives were just way more in the end. Um, yeah, so I'm honestly I can't really complain about how things went now looking back because I'm just really happy with where I am now.
Yeah, for sure. And I can see also that with your business, like especially in the last year, it seems to have grown so much. Like I was looking through your Instagram, and I was seeing like screenshots of like you growing from like 100 sales to 200 sales.
Mhm.
And uh and I've been following you on TikTok and seeing your numbers blow up. And what have you been doing in the last year to kind of market yourself to really push the business forward?
So, to be honest, I have no idea how social media algorithms work at all. TikTok, complete mystery to me. Don't know what works and doesn't work. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I just make content and there's, I'm like, oh, cool, this video did well. Don't know how that happened because it's literally the same as all my other content.
Yeah.
But I think for me, what was important about, I guess, my TikTok page and my um I don't know. I don't want to say philosophy because I don't think it's that deep. But for
Your
me, the way
strategy?
yeah, my strategy, I guess, like is the type of content that I like watching on TikTok is just content of people doing things for their business and not necessarily like outwardly saying, "Hey, like here are my products. Look at my products, buy my products." And I'm not like trying to trash anyone who does that. Like if you do that and that's your strategy, all power to you.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own different ways of doing things, but for me, my the way that I wanted to do it was I kind of just wanted to show the process of how I do things for my shop and the process of making things and just honestly showing new things that are coming because it's exciting. And um, I don't know like how familiar everyone else is with my content, but a lot of my content is just me doing like really like mundane things for my shop, like just recently I posted a video on how I made my own handwriting font. And I was like, look, I made this. It's cool. And I
Yeah.
use it for my shop now. And I do a lot of like order packaging because I package orders for my shop. So I'm like, might as well show it. And I know that it's really exciting when people see their packages or their orders
Yeah.
getting packaged on in a video because when it happens for me, I'm like, oh my God, like I get to see my stuff getting packaged. It's so, it's just it makes everyone really happy. So I think for me, the thing I focus on the most is just showing, I guess, showing how I just run my business in general. And I try my best to interact with as many people as I can. Uh, and I try to reply to like almost every comment that I can, or like
Mm-hmm.
at least like every comment, because I think engaging with the audience is like super, super important. Um, but to be honest, like I'm just as lost as most people when it comes to like marketing and like how to use social media, because I am kind of at the mercy of the algorithm or whatever is going on internally. So I don't really know how, if there's like a foolproof way to like blow up or whatever. I mean, if I knew that, then of course, like, I'd probably have like 3 billion followers or something. So I don't really have any like trade secrets or anything, but I just try to make consistent content and content that I think that I would enjoy as a consumer. So that's kind of how I run my TikTok page.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a very solid strategy because I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said, yeah, you make content you want to watch, right?
Hmm.
I think that's a solid bit of advice for anyone doing anything on social media. You have to look at your content critically and be like, if this wasn't mine, would I watch it? And I think that's
Hmm.
rule number one for if you're posting for marketing purposes, right? Because if you're posting for fun, who cares, right? Do whatever you want. But if you're posting with the intention of cultivating an audience so that you can, grow your business, then yeah, you have to be critical and be like, okay, is this interesting? Is this something I would have watched if somebody else released it? Because if the answer is no, like if you wouldn't watch it from someone else, why would people watch it coming from you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely a good strategy to like get going with social media if you don't know where to start. Like make a list of the kind of content that you love scrolling through on social media and try to recreate it in your own style.
Hmm. Yeah, that was what was really important for me, because I don't want to make content that I can't watch myself. I mean, seeing that I have to edit all the videos and
It's
watch
true.
them 3 million times. So I'd hope I enjoyed my own content.
Right? And I know a lot of people who listen to the show are people who are interested largely in starting their own businesses. What
Hmm.
are some lessons, if you could pinpoint any, that you've learned from starting your business that you want to tell people who are starting their own?
Hmm. Well, I think a lot of, as much as it pains me to say this as a planner person, a lot of the stuff I learned just happened naturally as I had my business. And I don't think there was any other way for me to learn a lot of the things I did learn without actually just having a business and experiencing, hiccups and bad times and things getting sent back to me for no reason and dealing with like postage
Mhm.
and everything. Like a lot of that is just stuff that you kind of have to naturally learn. And I'm not saying like don't do your research and stuff. Like definitely do your research and like plan as much as you can. But I
Yeah.
think the biggest lesson for me like going into it was that I felt like I didn't want to start my shop until I had every single duck in a row. And I was like, no, I can't start it. And I think that's why I procrastinated it for so long, because I was like, I can't start it yet. I'm not ready. I haven't thought of this, this, and this, and this. And the thing is, like, I had already been planning and researching for like an entire year at that point. And then I was just like, Kate, Ivy, you know as much as you can as someone who doesn't even have a shop yet. I think you should probably just start your shop.
Mhm.
So I guess, I don't know what lesson it is, but the lesson I would take from that is just like, you have to be willing to make mistakes and experience, customers that don't receive their products or something, or like stuff like that, where you can't really experience that unless you're an actual shop owner trying to
Mhm.
send out products that don't make it to the customer, and then you have to deal with it when it comes. um and I spent like days and days and days trying to like hypothesize every single possible thing, and have a game plan, but like ultimately a lot of it is just learned through owning a business. And I don't think that anyone who starts a business ever has every single duck in a row and has every single thing figured out. So it's okay to start, um, as long as you're willing to learn from, different hiccups and mistakes that you might encounter, that you probably will encounter while you're owning a business.
For sure. I think that's such a solid piece of advice. Just learning by doing. Like planning is good. It's always a good idea to like prepare as much as you can reasonably, but at some point you just kind of have to take the leap. And I
Mhm.
know for a lot of people, I think fear of failure holds them back. But
100%.
I mean, in a way, you're kind of failing yourself by not even starting. Because some people let that fear hold them back so far that they never even start their business or their personal projects.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to like um do it scared, like
Mhm.
even though you're scared to do it, you do it anyways. And you know what, half the time it's not as bad as whatever you picture. Like I remember before I started, I would be like, what if this happens, what if that happens? And
Mhm.
I don't think almost any of the things I was afraid of happening have happened yet.
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like we make things out way worse in our heads than they could potentially be.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, everyone's their own, like, worst enemy in a way.
Yeah.
So, you could literally sit and agonize about, like, all the things that could go wrong, but, I mean, why agonize things that could go wrong when you could just, actually live the things that do go right and enjoy owning a shop and finally, pursuing your dreams and stuff? Because I'd rather, deal with the problems while I'm actually experiencing it rather than agonizing over things that haven't even happened.
Absolutely. I completely agree. So, I guess now that we're wrapping up the episode, do you have any parting words for aspiring artists?
Hmm. Well, I kind of tell myself this and other people this all the time, but um, making content for social media is super fun. And it's honestly like, I can't lie that like seeing numbers go up is like, it gives you like a crazy like adrenaline rush weirdly,
Mhm.
because like you're like, whoa, this is happening so fast and you don't know what's going on, and like it honestly makes you feel really good. But that also is the biggest reason why people burn out from being on social media, because sometimes, as I've been trying to say, that everyone's content is literally just at the mercy of like the algorithm of the social media that they're using. And a
Yeah.
lot of times like you can be making the same content, and good quality content, and it just doesn't stick. No one sees it. And I am not a stranger to that either. Like I constantly go through phases where I'm like, why are my videos not getting views? Like this is so frustrating. I spend like hours and hours recording videos and no one sees them. And I think it's hard to get yourself out of that mindset, but it's good to just be aware that like sometimes these things happen on social media where your stuff just doesn't get seen. And it's not really your fault. I mean, sometimes it could be, I guess, part to do with your content that you're making. Maybe like you haven't been posting as consistently or whatever. But most times, like sometimes the content just doesn't stick for some reason. I don't know how or why.
Mhm.
So it's good to kind of make sure that you check yourself in that way and be like, okay, this is not really, it's too much in my control. I'm just gonna, try to keep trucking along and keep posting. And that's kind of what I do when I'm in situations like that where I start feeling way too overwhelmed by like things not working out or whatever. I just focus on what I can do, like what I can record or what new products I can make so that I could maybe draw in a new audience or something. So yeah, that's the tough part about social media. But I know that a lot of artists definitely do want to get started on social media, which is a really good thing. But just make sure that you don't get too caught up in like numbers and everything.
Agreed. And also don't be afraid if you feel confident about a social media post and it didn't do well, don't be afraid to post things more than once. Like
True.
um I feel like in the current age of social media things move so fast that
Mhm.
like you spend hours on a piece of art that like is kind of gone in seconds once you post it, but like that's just not true. Like you should never feel like you're making art for the the sole purpose of posting, and that's it, it's done. Like, post things multiple times. Post the behind the scenes behind of post, post it in different colors, different angles. Like, get as
Mhm.
much as you can out of a piece of art, because yeah, sometimes things like posts don't do well, and it's just because you didn't post it at a good time and not enough people saw it, or the
Mhm.
algorithm just wasn't in your favor that day. So, like, don't let your effort go to waste because, like, oh, it didn't do well. Like, you can post things again. Nobody will be mad if they see the same thing more than once, cuz, like, yeah, one person may have seen it already, but, like, a potential large amount of people have not seen it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I need to, like, be more comfortable doing too. Um,
I think also it gets easier as you build up a bigger amount of content, because if you leave larger buffers of time between people seeing stuff, it's not as jarring.
that's true. Yeah, that's a
Because
really good point though.
I have to do that too. I have one brand that I've been working on this year that, like, I'm always stressed because I'm like, I'm not producing enough. I can't keep up with posting. And it's
Mhm.
like, dude, just repeat posts or make new posts that use parts of an old post. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's no like that TikTok audio, nobody's gonna know.
Oh, yeah. They're gonna know, they're gonna know.
Oh man. So I guess now that we're at the end, where can people find you and your work?
So, my name is pretty much Ivy Tart on all my social medias, I think. So my Etsy shop is called Ivy Tart, exactly how it's spelled here. So Ivytart. Yeah, is that spelled right? Yeah. I
Yeah.
had to check myself for a second. And then I think my Instagram is ivy.tart. And then I also have a YouTube channel that I haven't been posting on too much, but I have a few studio vlogs from last year. And yeah, I want to make some more content about educational videos on like how to use Silhouette and how to use the Cricut machine. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been working on, and that's where you can find me.
Cool, awesome. And I'm gonna have all the links to where to find her down in the description box or in the show notes below. But
Awesome.
yeah, anyways, thank you so much for being a guest. I loved hearing all about you and your career.
No, thank you for having me. Honestly, I'm so flattered that you reached out to me, and yeah, I'm just really happy that I got to chat with you today.
Man, I loved talking to Ivy for this episode. She just has such a relatable story. I feel like a lot of us can relate to that feeling of wanting to please our parents while also forging our own path. I know that that is something that is very, very hits home for me. But here's something wild I just realized. As I'm recording and editing this episode, I realized that my birthday's tomorrow. And wow, it just made me think about how this podcast has given me so many opportunities to talk to amazing people, connect with listeners who are kind of going through the same stuff that I am, and also just make me feel so thankful that you are out here listening and getting a lot out of these stories and just supporting my podcast and me as a result. Even some of you who have stuck with me through a 2-year hiatus. Thank you so, so, so much. Looking back on everything that has happened just makes me realize how lucky I am and how thankful I am to be able to connect with artists every week. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. And so you don't miss any future episodes, please, please, please subscribe to the podcast on whatever app you're using to listen to me right now. And follow the podcast on socials. We're on Twitter and we are on Instagram. Those are going to also be links down in the description box / show notes. And if you want to do a little something special for my birthday, leave a review. They really help. And if you're on YouTube, leave a comment on any of the latest episodes. That also helps a lot. But anyways, guys, until next time, this is me saying goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.